Talk radio for the thinking person. Home of borders, language, culture. And here he is, Michael Savage.
From Charlie Parker to Boko Haram in one generation. How did this happen to America? How did the West die? I don't know, man, but I don't want to die with it, I'll tell you that. So here we are. Welcome to the program. Here's a comment from a listener on my Facebook page. David Hutto says, Michael, all I have to say is yesterday's show was awesome. I know that we're fed up with these inbred heathen sand fleas from the 7th century, but your rant on food quality in the delis of San Francisco and your tales of allergy woes had me almost in the ditch laughing hysterically. Love you, Mike. Keep up the free association. Let's hear some Charlie Parker. Give you a little bite, a little toxic bite. The Islamic speaker admits killing gays is a belief held by moderate Muslims. Paul Joseph Watson, InfoWars. During a conference held in May of 2013, Islamic speaker Fahed Qureshi complained that the media often frames views such as the death penalty for homosexuals or the subjugation of women as only being held by radical Muslims. Qureshi says, I always try to tell them that these are general views that every Muslim actually has. Every Muslim believes in these things, says Qureshi. Qureshi then asks the audience of Muslim attendees, black, white, and Arab, to raise their hands if they agree with gender segregation and stoning women for adultery as taught by the Quran. Virtually every single moderate Muslim in the room raises their hand to agree with these positions. Qureshi then asks the audience if they go to normal Sunni mosques in Norway. Virtually everyone raises their hand. Imagine a mosque in Norway. Can you imagine a mosque in Norway? That's like a dairy farm in Manhattan. But there's mosques in Norway now. Can you imagine what globalization has done to the world? What are the politicians going to say now? What is the media going to say now? That we are all extremists? That we are all radicals? That we need to deport all of us from this country, states Qureshi? Duh. The chillingly ironic thing is, of course, that in trying to argue that most Muslims are not radical extremists, Qureshi only proves the point that so-called moderate Muslims do in fact hold radical, violent, and extreme views about the treatment of women and homosexuals. Well, don't tell that to Jay Johnson, the head of Homeland Security. He thinks it's you, the right-wingers. Don't tell that to Hillary Clinton. She says we need more radical Muslims. I mean moderate Muslims. More Muslims in America in order for, we don't know why. And I guess we need more oppression. I suppose progressives won't be happy until they're repressed by the people they're bringing in. Then they'll finally realize that somebody can control them because we can't. Play a little Charlie Parker on a savage nation. Terrible thing, all those bankers that are being found dead. New York Post is to be commended for running a remarkable series on the death of bankers around the world. Of course, it started in Italy. A bank in Italy? Moo, that's like a dairy farm in Manhattan. So, folks, I got something nice to tell you. Here's the nice thing. I want you to do me a favor. I want you to get out a pen. Yes, you remember those things that you held in your hand between your index finger, your thumb, and the third finger? Remember those things called pens? Before Mark Zuckerberg came along, there was a thing called a pen. That's right. And you held it in those three fingers, and you grasped it, and you made a note. And the note is that Sunday night at 12:01 a.m., if you're still up, if you have insomnia or you're following your natural sleep cycle, which is not to sleep in such a long block of 9 hours, but break it up into 2 blocks as most humans have done through the millennia. Let's say you're up at 12:01. What I want you to do is text Savage 36500. Text 36500. Is that it, Robert? 365? No? No. What do? You type the name Savage and you send it to 365. Oh, okay. See, I don't know how this works. Here's what I want you to do. You text the name Savage. You type the name Savage. Type the name Savage into your text device. And then you send it to 36500. I'll tell you more about it on Friday. And if you do that, you will help elect Michael Savage to the National Radio Hall of Fame because I deserve it. If I didn't deserve it, I wouldn't tell you about it. I'm only running against 3 other people. And since I've been a pioneer in the spoken word, since I'm far more creative, inventive, entertaining, informative, educated than everyone else in the history of radio, I deserve the award. And I want to be in the National Radio Hall of Fame. I think it would be a real honor for me. And then the only way I could win is if enough listeners text all their friends and people on their social lists to say, type the name Savage and send it to 36500. But this can't happen until Sunday night, 12:01 a.m., or Monday morning, the first thing you wake up. That's just a piece of business. That's all. Topic 2 on the Savage Nation. Now, I want to talk about what happened at the gay nightclub again, because it's a huge story in that it's a tragedy unto itself, of course. If you don't want to call it a tragedy, it's a travesty unto itself, of course. It's a slaughter of innocence, of course. But it is not the first, nor will it be the last, by a Muslim in the West. No, it's in a long line of slaughter, you see. And that's because of the weakness of liberalism. We have a president who was such a fool that he won't even define the enemy by its proper name. I mean, they define themselves by their proper name, to their credit. They do call themselves the Islamic State. They don't call themselves the Jewish state or the Buddhist state, the Christian state, the Baptist state. They don't call themselves the Presbyterian state or the Catholic state. They're very clear who they are. They are ISIS, the Islamic State. Everyone knows it except Obama. He doesn't know it. Angela Merkel doesn't know it. The liberal fools don't know it because they don't want to know it, not because their head is in the sand, but their head is somewhere else. But since this is a family radio show, I can't say where that somewhere else is. And it's not somewhere over the rainbow. My friends and fellow Americans, we are in real trouble. And a man who knows the trouble we are in best, a man who has been on the front lines against Islamic fascism for a very long time, a true war hero, a man who lost his brother to the Islamic fascists, but continues to plow ahead in his desire to awaken the world, a man who is running a little country called Israel, a man who Obama hates and tried to shame, but in so doing only shamed himself, only furthered the embarrassment of the presidency. Benjamin Netanyahu gave a powerful address in Israel right after the slaughter in Orlando. It's something that a real leader would have given if we had a real leader, instead of the man we have in the White House who was anything but that. And I'm going to play it for you during this show, a powerful address from Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, because it goes to the issue of the slaughter in Orlando, puts it in context and tells us what we must do to save ourselves from the next slaughter by the Islamo-fascists who are everywhere amongst us. There's over 1,000 active investigations by the FBI, which is being overwhelmed as a result of open borders and in the immigration policies of the Democrat Party. I mean, you have a very clear choice in this election. It's either live or die as far as I'm concerned. If you want to choose life, then you choose someone as flawed as he is, as narcissistic as he is, as egotistical as he is. He is choosing life for you and for America, while the skirt is choosing a furtherance of the road of death. I also want to talk about something I said in 2015, June 11th, 2015, where I said we need to bring back UAC, the House of Un-American Activities Committee. It was very, very controversial when I said it. I repeated it on May 4th, 2016, saying we need a new UAC, and I gave you the history of Julius and Ethel Rosenberg. And what's really odd is that Newt Gingrich yesterday went on to Fixed News, the faux news channel, and he said, revive UAC. Thank you, Newt. I'm glad you're listening to the Savage Nation for your original ideas. We will have that for you as well on the Savage Nation. And the phone number here is 855-407-282. I feel it in my DNA. I'm going to have a good show today. A, because I had the second cup of coffee just before the show. So it's a new theory I'm working on. I was caffeine deprived all these years. I had no idea. I always had a cup in the morning, and I rarely had a cup just at noon when the show starts on the West Coast. But it's a new experience for me to have sufficient amounts of caffeine circulating in my blood where I could actually feel good in addition to doing good. Yeah, I'm kidding you. It's that coffee, that great stuff. Great stuff. I remember when I was in grad school, there was, that was in the late 60s, there was a myth already going around that caffeine was harmful. And we were all afraid of it. You know, it causes cancer, it does this, it does that. But my professor was the former director of research at Dow Chemical, a brilliant guy, great guy. He knew chemistry in and out. He knew chemistry the way, liberals know depravity. Let's put it to you that way. He knew everything about chemistry. And old Doc Norton said to me, no, he said, caffeine is one of the most wonderful natural stimulants on the planet. He said, it's a mild cerebral stimulant is how he put it. He was such a balanced guy, mild cerebral stimulant. So I am mildly stimulating my cerebrum for you today. I am mildly stimulating my cerebrum. And also, did I read that thing, Robert, about the show about food? Yeah, the guy loved my rant on food quality in the delis of San Francisco and how it relates to the bad-tasting, dried-out politicians that we have in the Bay Area. It's identical. See, this is the thing about food quality in San Francisco I was trying to make, is the food stinks here, especially the deli food. You can't find deli food. I've been here for ages. You cannot get it. The turkey is no good. The smoked salmon is no good. You say, now, what does that matter in a world that's going to you-know-where? I think it's a symbol of the stupidity of the Bay Area, in that the Bay Area hold themselves up as foodies. They know they know nothing about food. Nothing. They go to these stupid restaurants outside of North Beach, which is the only place with real food, the Italian district. They're all fake restaurants. They know nothing about it. These guys go to cooking school, and they pass that off as good. It's not cuisine. It's nothing. It's an invention. It's fake, just like the politicians. That's how Boxer, Feinstein, and Pelosi get away with it. They're like fake, I don't know what, fake whatever you want to call it. They're not the right thing for the Bay Area. If they were the right thing, we wouldn't have the corruption we have. We wouldn't have the broken streets we have. We wouldn't have bums defecating in mailboxes that we have. We wouldn't have illegal aliens voting that we have. We wouldn't have bicyclists acting as bums on two wheels, little terrorists on bicycles at the end of the month. No, we wouldn't have any of that stuff. So, my friends, we have a lot to do today and a lot of fun. Hall of Fame voting starts Sunday night, 12:01 a.m. We got the Netanyahu speech on radical Islam. We got my idea of bring back HUAC. Thank you, Newt Gingrich, for listening. I'm glad you do. And, of course, we have all the other stuff that I mentioned. And the phone number, again, is 855-407-2882. And I'm going to do this. We're going to go to Charlie Parker right now, Robert. And we're going to take a short commercial break on the great Savage Nation. And the minute I return, all that and more, right here.
During the Savage Nation. Call now, 855-400-SAVAGE, 855-400-7282. Savage.
Ridiculous. Knock it off. Kill it. I like the Buddy Rich on the drums. That was the best. Unbelievable. Yeah. A lot of women are frightened right now. I got to tell you, that's the truth. The American women are frightened after that slaughter in the gay nightclub. I mean, no one's going to tell it to you. They're scared because they know the government is not on their side. They know the government's not protecting them. They feel stripped naked, and they feel vulnerable. Women are generally more sensitive than men. That's what I found in my life. As hard and tough as women can be, I feel women are more sensitive to what's going on in the currents. They feel frightened because they know that Obama is not there for them. They know that Hillary is not going to protect them. And I believe that they feel that only a tough guy like Trump can save them from the Islamo-fascist hordes amongst us. Never mind Mosul. They don't really care about France. When they see a bum go into a nightclub in Orlando and slaughter innocent guys like they did, they feel vulnerable. That's the thing for you to remember. And this election is going to be all about national security, as it should have been, by the way, from the get-go. And there's no one worse than Hillary Clinton on national security. All I've got to do is say Arab Spring, and that's the end of it. She owns it. And I hope that during the debates, Trump reminds America that it was her plan that destroyed Europe and gave us this flood of Muslim refugees into Europe, and they're about to take Europe over. And speaking of that, you say it can't happen? I would disagree with you. By the way, somebody sent a reference to me of a mystic from Bulgaria, a Bulgarian mystic, a clairvoyant and herbalist by the name of Baba Vanga. I never heard of her. Born in January of 1911, died in August of 96. And the name was Baba Vanga. As I say, a blind Bulgarian mystic. And millions of people around the world were convinced that she possessed paranormal abilities. And there's a book called The Weiser Field Guide to the Paranormal. In it, they claim that she foretold the breakup of the Soviet Union, the Chernobyl disaster, the date of Stalin's death, the sinking of the Russian sub Kursk, the 9/11 attacks, and Topolov's victory in the World Chess Tournament. But there's other horrible stuff. Really, she predicted that the 44th president of the United States will be the last U.S. president. Europe will be transformed into an Islamic caliphate, and the transformation will be complete in the year 2043. And there's more about communism. I don't know. It's just mysticism. What do you want to believe in? What can I tell you? When I come back, Benjamin Netanyahu.
Join the Savage Nation. Call now, 855-400-SAVAGE. Savage.
See, America's the greatest country on earth. You can hear it just in jazz music, how great this country really is. Of course, we don't have that music anymore. Now it's degenerated as well into some illiterate gutter rap music, which is not at all the same. Don't tell me it's in the same category and it's just on the arc of development. It isn't. It's a degeneration. You know it and I know it. But nevertheless, let's not go into that. Forget about it. I don't want to talk about it. Here I'm reading an article. I'm going to show you why the journalists destroyed the world. The whole West was destroyed by the liberal press. Here I'm reading an article on the slaughter, and I go to the right column in the Daily Mail. Gwyneth Paltrow flashes her toned abs. Kardashians win an Emmy. Can Caitlyn win an Emmy? They mix your brain up. They've destroyed us. The diseased people in the media have destroyed us. So you don't know the difference between good and bad and right and wrong and up and down. What am I going to say to you? It's hard to do. It's lucky that I'm an older person who grew up at a different time where I have a compass in my head. It doesn't mean I can always follow true north, but I know where true north is. Let's put it to you that way. I was raised on the Ten Commandments. Do I always live up to them? Absolutely not. I was told right from wrong. Am I always right? Am I never wrong? No, but at least I know right from wrong. Now the kids don't know right from wrong, north from south, east from west, stop from go, green from red. That's why we're talking about it on the show. I do the best I can. And so if I sometimes go from the threat against our lives by the immigrants that are being brought in here from the Middle East, yes, I'll say it again, and their brethren and their offspring, and then I switch over to things like food, there's a reason for it. It's because my brain can only take so much pain. You get it? And so we have to move around a little bit in order to maintain the brain. And the brain needs rest. The brain needs some humor. We cannot let the sand fleas destroy our humor. We cannot let the throwbacks take our humor and our joy and our civilization away from us. We cannot take those who live in the 7th century, bring us to the 7th century. We must try our best to bring them to the 8th century, to the 9th century, where, by the way, within their own people, they were already communicating with Jews and Christians on scholarly levels. And I've told you that before. Islam had evolved by the 9th century to something different from the 7th century. What we are doing now is bringing in 7th century throwbacks. Not 17th century, as some of you would wrongly believe, and not 9th century Muslims. We're bringing in Muslims with 7th century beliefs. And that is the problem, my friend. It's not Islam. It's the level of their development. That's something that's never been discussed in the media because they're not educated. They have no desire to study history. And they're knee-jerk liberals who immediately accuse anyone who discusses anything in any depth on this issue of being you-know-what. I'm not going to say it. So, look, I'm going to play for you the best leadership speech on the threat that we all face from Islamic terrorism. And I think I'll break it up into two parts, starting right now with one of the great men of our time. And, of course, you know how great he is because Obama hates him and is afraid of him and is challenged by him, just as he is of Putin, another actually great man. Incidentally, Putin's a great leader of Russia. I don't care whether you like him or not. The Russians love him, and there's a reason they love him. He's restored their dignity. He's restored their honor. He's restored their patriotism. And he knows one thing, and you know what that is? He knows that in Russia, Russians come first, not last. And he also knows how to take care of business. And he's not afraid to say it like it is. And that's why the Russians love Putin. And what we have is the antithesis of Putin with our leadership. So having said that, I want to play the sound of a real man, a real war hero, right now on what happened in Orlando the other day. Here is Israeli Prime Minister, the great Benjamin Netanyahu on the Savage Nation.
In Orlando, a terrorist walks into a nightclub and murders nearly 50 human beings. Sons and daughters, brothers and sisters, cut down in cold blood. They did nothing wrong. They were dancing with friends, They were enjoying music with loved ones. Why did the terrorists murder them? Because he was driven by a fanatical hatred. He targeted the LGBT community because he believed they were evil. Now, the murderer wasn't alone. Regime and terrorist organizations around the world ruthlessly persecute the LGBT community. In Syria, ISIS throws gays off rooftops. In Iran, the regime hangs gays from cranes. Too many people have remained silent in the face of this awful persecution. This week's shooting wasn't merely an attack on the LGBT community. It was an attack on all of us, on our common values of freedom and diversity and choice. Radical Islamist terror makes no distinction between shades of infidel. This week it was gays in Orlando. A few days before that it was Jews in Tel Aviv. Before that it was music fans in Paris, travelers in Brussels, Yazidis in Iraq, community workers in San Bernardino, Christians and journalists in Syria. All of us are targets. We believe that all people are created in the image of God. ISIS, by contrast, believes that all people who aren't just like them deserve to die.
Let's pause right there, Robert, because we'll pick this up later. There was so much to absorb from Benjamin Netanyahu's summary in his speech. It was Churchillian and worthy of repetition, and it's just what America needs. We don't have a Netanyahu, and Trump is not a Netanyahu, don't get me wrong. But sympathetically, emotionally, intellectually, Trump, I believe, would do the right thing to protect us from the hordes that have already been let in. If I give you the numbers of people that Obama has flooded into this country who have no chance of ever, let us say, even cooperating with our open society, you'd be shocked. And, of course, those on the front lines of this open society should be most receptive to that speech by Netanyahu, and I doubt that they are. I would hope that they would be, but they're not. They're just not. Anyway, that's not something I can change. I'm merely a commentator. That is a talk show host. I'm not a leader. I've never run for office. I've never said I would run for office. I don't intend to run for office. I am not a politician. Don't confuse me with a politician. I never wanted to be one. It's not a life that I can ever possibly see myself in. It's impossible to believe. And what they've done to Trump has shown me more clearly than ever why I was right my whole life never to go into office, because the vermin in the media are so relentlessly imbalanced and cruel towards anyone who loves their own country. They're so imbalanced and cruel to a man who respects the sovereignty of his own nation that it takes a much stronger man than me to have taken what he took, because I would have exploded a long time ago. He's not yet exploded at them. It's true he banned the Washington Post, which he should have done, because a real left-wing fanatic bought the Washington Post strictly to control the news feeds. In case you don't know it, the Washington Post is not run even by liberals anymore. It's run by a fanatical individual named Jeff Bezos, who owns, I forget what, is he own Amazon? Yeah, he owns Amazon. So these men are megalomaniacs, guys like Bezos, and there's no limit to their desire for power and control, and there's no better way to wash the brains of the masses than to own newspapers. I mean, same goes true on the other side. Mr. Murdoch, God bless him, he's a genius. He owns the Wall Street Journal. Personally, I never would have permitted him to buy the Wall Street Journal. Probably a bad purchase anyway, probably a loser, but there should be limits on how many different media properties any individual can control, by the way. There used to be such controls. You couldn't own more than a certain number of TV and radio stations in any one market. That all changed. And monopoly is now the rule, not the exception. And incidentally, I never talk about this to any extent, but we need a very serious conversation one day on breaking up the monopolies in the United States of America. There are too many of them. Monopolies like Microsoft, monopolies like Facebook, monopolies like Google. They are the classic reason that antitrust divisions were created within this government. And one day we have to face the fact that monopolies have grown. And many of you have been deluded by the philosophy of free market, free market, free market. And you keep repeating it like parrots. Free market, let the free market prevail. Free market, free market. It doesn't work that way. Sometimes the free market can be hijacked by tremendous amounts of money. And at that point, the government has to step in and break up the monopoly. It's that simple. That's how I see it. I don't even have to say anymore. I did the whole thing. That's all. So we played a little of the Netanyahu. I gave you a little background. I played a little of the Buddy Rich, listening around the country. I read you from the mystic Baba Vanga. I told you that you can vote for me starting Sunday night at 12:01 a.m., which is Monday morning. What you do is you simply type the name Savage and you text it to 36500. You type in Savage 36500. It's a very short nomination period. The direct voice from you on who should be inducted into the Radio Hall of Fame begins June 20th. And you type the name Savage and you send it to 36500. And the inductees will be announced Monday, July 11th. Now, why do you think I want this so much? Yes, there's an egotistical reason for it, of course. Be a feather in my crown. It would give me a nice award after 22 years of slavery in the history of radio. I deserve it, number one, because I am the most creative person in the history of talk radio. Without doubt, I know it. If I'm not going to say it, who's going to say it? Someone else? I'm telling you, I am the most creative, inventive, and educated person in the history of talk radio. I know that. If it was just education, don't vote for me, because that's boring. If it was just entertainment, don't vote for me, because that's entertainment. But to combine entertainment, intuition, free association with education, as I have done on a regular basis all these years, is why you should vote for me. By typing the name Savage, text it to 36500. And by the way, if you have a large Facebook or Twitter account, why don't you use it against them? Now, why do I want to win? I told you, one, my ego. I'd be lying if I said otherwise. I mean, the Bible says all is vanity. So let's put that on the table right off the bat. That's number one. But remember, if Savage wins the nomination for the Radio Hall of Fame, it's not just a feather in his cap. His message of borders, language, and culture will suddenly become announced to the world. And that will lead us right to Donald Trump's message, which is very close. Yes, it's hand in glove. Yes, I'm using the Trump candidacy to get you excited. And yes, I hope you will hear what I just said to you. KBET in Nevada. Bruce, welcome to the Savage Nation Line 4. What's on your mind, Bruce?
Well, I just wanted to wish you good luck on the Hall of Fame. You truly are, in addition to very informative and the most entertaining talk show host in America. I think why you're so successful is, like Donald Trump, you tell it like it is. You say the things that so many people would like to but don't have an avenue to do it. For example, I'm a school teacher. I would love to be able to say a lot of the things that you say, but there's no way I'd be able to say it at my work or I'd be fired.
No, you can't say it. We live in a dictatorship where most of our basic freedoms have been stolen from us by the radical left, especially in the schoolroom, in the university, a real dictatorship altogether, when minority fascists are now running the universities like little fiefdoms. Yeah, I understand how hard it is to say what you really believe, and I appreciate the fact that I speak for you and many others. I'm going to send you a copy of Government Zero, because I know that you'd enjoy reading it. Bring it to school in a plain brown wrapper, because if someone sees it, you're liable to be reported to the FBI or to DHS. As you well know, they're not interested in Islamo-fascists. They're interested in Americans who want to live. Okay, my friends, that's the opening to the show. It took us 46 minutes to get here. Many topics. There are no open lines. I'll be right back.
Join the Savage Nation. Call now, 855-400-SAVAGE, 855-400-7282. Savage.
My Savage Nation is sponsored by SwissAmerica.com. It's the only company I trust to protect my wealth. Call 800-BUI-COIN. Well, excuse me, how we go from Eisenhower to Obama, that's all. That's simple. You just do the jump cut. So I could listen to this music all day, but that's not what you're paying me to do. What you're paying me to do is what I do normally, and that is, I guess, talk about politics, largely politics. I like to do other stuff, and it's hard to do other stuff in this hyper-political atmosphere that we're in. I mean, yesterday I touched on the dangers of statins and how you may be misled about having a high LDL, which could turn out to be actually protective for you if you're over 60, according to a great study of over 68,000 people, and no one called on it because it's over everyone's head. If the drug peddler with the stethoscope says, take a dangerous drug, you take the dangerous drug. Then if you go to the drug peddler with the stethoscope and you say, my legs hurt, he gives you another drug for the pains in your legs instead of taking you off the statins. That's all. So what am I going to do? The drug companies control the information flow, just as the government controls the information flow about Islamic terrorism. So you got to try to figure it out for yourself. That's simple. Meanwhile, government bonds and you talk about the economy. You want to do fiscal? I'll do fiscal. No one could do fiscal better than me. I know fiscal. Fiscal wasn't a bad kid. I went to high school with fiscal. Turned out pretty good in his life. But fiscally speaking, bonds in Germany have dropped to zero. Now we're reading U.S. government bonds can next go to sub-zero. Why? Does anyone understand that other than me? Why is Janet Yellen, better known as Janet Yellen, why is Janet Yellen keeping interest rates at zero? Why won't she let the interest rates float to where they really should be to reflect the inflation that Obama has created by printing money? There's the answer. The question has the answer. But we're not in high school, so if you're in high school, I'll explain it to you again in another way and then test you on it. You got the whole answer. Janet Yellen was appointed by the magician in the White House. Let's call him a magician. He does a magic act every day. The most incompetent man in the history of the presidency, or working for the other side altogether, gets away with it because he's a magician. And who's he going to appoint? Someone who disagrees with him? Hey, play some Charlie Parker on the way out, even for those who don't like jazz. It probably offends people somewhere. It's not patriotic enough. It requires neuronic activity in parts of the brain not used for a very long time.
Join the Savage Nation. Call now, 855-400-SAVAGE. Warning. The Savage Nation contains adult language, adult content, psychological nudity. Listener discretion is advised. And now, America's most exciting radio talk show, The Savage Nation. Talk radio for the thinking person, home of borders, language, culture. And here he is, Michael Savage.
Forget I am an immigrant son. I'm the only one in talk radio who's actually an immigrant son, and I wear that as an honor. I'm the only one in talk radio who comes from an actual immigrant to the United States of America. Now, that gives me a unique perspective. I have one foot in the old world and one foot in the new world. I have one foot in utter abject poverty and one foot in remarkable success. In that sense, I can speak for more people more clearly than anyone else in radio. That's my opinion. And, of course, there are those who will slam me for this and disagree. That's their right. It's okay. I'm used to it. But the fact of the matter is, as an immigrant son, I have studied immigrants and immigration in America from its inception. And looking back at all the waves of immigrants that come here, we can see the beautiful things they brought to the country. I don't have to name the countries of origin that have brought us literature, music, poetry, science, mathematics, cuisine. I don't have to name them. That's what made America a great, great nation, the greatest on earth. Because all of these elements of these immigrant waves were mixed together in a stew called the mixing pot, the melting pot. And it did create the greatest nation on earth, which provided the greatest opportunity for the most numbers of people. In the history of the whole world, no one had ever seen it. But now we have people who are perverting that concept and flooding us with non-productive immigrants who will never produce. They will never produce nor give this nation the bounty that previous waves of immigrants have given us. Never. Never. Just look at the history of their own countries and tell me that they're going to bring civilization to this nation. I don't see it. I'm sorry to tell you that the great days of the Arabs are long over. Tell me what the Arabs have given the world in the last hundreds of years. What have they given the world? Where is their great architecture? Where is the great art of the Arab world? Where is the great science of the Arab world in the modern world? What happened to the Arabs? And so you ask yourself, why then bring in people who are not going to contribute? Why is Obama obsessed with bringing in people whose own backgrounds indicate that they won't contribute to this society the way previous waves of immigrants have contributed to this so-called melting pot? Why? Shouldn't there be a rational decision made upon which immigrants to bring into a country, other than who can vote for you? Shouldn't something be said about that? Well, there was a rational time where such decisions were made. So, I mean, having said that, here we are living in a time of total chaos and total madness, and people are frightened, and they don't know which way to turn. Some people think that that woman is going to save them. I kind of doubt it. I mean, I'm saying it in a sarcastic way. What has she done that would indicate that she is going to lead us out of this swamp that Obama and the liberal isms of so many decades prior to that have done to us? What can she do that she hasn't already done that will save us? The Arab Spring alone indicates that she has no judgment whatsoever. She has misjudgment. What can Trump do to bring us out of this terrible situation we're in? Well, he's a flawed personality. We understand all of his flaws. We don't have to repeat them, because most of us who are successful suffer the same flaws. In fact, those pointing the longest fingers at Trump for his failings have the same failings. Look at the Hollywood people who are pointing the fingers. Look at the stupid actors. Idiots, shallow people like Johnny Depp. Look at who's pointing the fingers and calling him a narcissist. They're just jealous of his success, because people are looking at him more than they're looking at him, at Johnny Depp. I'm giving you an example. So those who have the longest fingers and the longest noses are pointing at Donald Trump and saying he's a flawed man, which he is. He's a very flawed man, but his ideas are not flawed. His ideas are very similar to mine on borders, language, and culture, although he doesn't say that. And that's why I am for him. That is why I have supported him for these years now. And I had him on the show first in 2011. It was a great interview, incidentally. We should replay it one of these days when we have the time. If you just joined us, welcome, whatever. Welcome, whatever. I know we're listened to across the country on many great stations. And I want you to savor that as long as you can and squeeze the last drop of Savage that you can out of your listenership. And on this Sunday night, if you've enjoyed this show for all these years, or if you're a new listener, you get an opportunity to vote. And there's only 4 people running to be inducted into the Radio Hall of Fame in my category. And all you've got to do is text your choice of Savage by typing the name Savage and then texting it to 36500. That's all. And you could do it 12:01. That's midnight this Sunday. And it'll run only through a week. That's all you have to nominate me. And so I've been nominated in the category of spoken word on-air personality. And for more than 22 years, I've been a pioneer in the spoken word. My message of borders, language, and culture has resonated with millions of listeners on a daily basis, which is, by the way, I'm respected by both sides of the political spectrum. Not the fanatical progressives, of course. Nobody is respected by them except the sick and the really, really weird. But the respect that I have garnered on both sides of the political spectrum is evidenced not only by publications on the right, but by a 2009 profile in the New Yorker, which you can look up yourself, and more recently in Salon magazine, or whatever it is called, where I was deemed the godfather of Trump mania. It's that simple. So I'll tell you more about it as the week evolves. I have to tell you by Friday, don't I? And it's Wednesday already. The week is flying by. The week is just flying by, and we're talking about all the news of the day. And I do want to talk in this hour about something that I first said on June 11th, 2015, saying that we need a new House of Un-American Activities Committee. When I first said it, I was afraid it was going to kill my radio career because of the progressives that control the media are so overwhelmingly dictatorial. It didn't, though, and I repeated it again. I think it was this month. On May 4th, 2016, we need a new UAC, and I gave you the history of Julius and Ethel Rosenberg. The reason it's important is because Newt Gingrich, he's a bright guy. I don't particularly like him politically, and I've said so, but he's about as smart as they come because he's a history professor, or was. Listen to what he said in clip number 4, and then we'll go back to what I want to say to you about what I said before Newt Gingrich said it. Go ahead, clip 4.
We're going to ultimately declare war on Islamic supremacists, and we're going to say, if you pledge allegiance to ISIS, you are a traitor and you have lost your citizenship. And we're going to take much tougher positions. In the late 1930s, President Franklin Roosevelt was faced with Nazi penetration in the United States. We originally created the House Un-American Activities Committee to go after Nazis. We passed several laws in 1938 and 1939 to go after Nazis. And we made it illegal to help the Nazis. We're going to presently have to go take the similar steps here.
He's 100% right. We're going to have to do it to the Islamic murderers who are lurking amongst us. And I hope that HUAC is brought back by, or UAC is brought back by Donald Trump. It certainly won't be brought back by Hillary Clinton because she's a diehard leftist, and she will never do such a thing because the left is afraid of UAC because most of them would be ripped up in the net. They know it. I mean, they know they're subversives, and they know they've worked with the enemy one way or the other. They know it. So they're not going to vote for it. Now, in my first commentary on this, and this is probably as good a time as any, I said it on June 11th, 2015, we need a new UAC. So let's hear how I put it in clip 3, please. If I was president, I'd bring back UAC, the House of Un-American Activities Committee, number 1, and I would deport anyone who was working against the interests of this country. Oh, my God, you're kidding me. How McCarthy-esque can you get, Michael? Man, I love McCarthy. He was an actual tail gunner in World War II. I don't have to tell you who his enemies were in World War II. They were working with the Goldmans, whatever their name was, the two of them that got fried in the Sing Sing for giving away our nuclear secrets to the Russians. What were their names? The two of them? The two heroes of the left? Yeah, okay, fellow travelers, in other words. House of Un-American Activities Committee. Let's go for it. Let's have a UAC committee again, run by real Americans, returning military veterans who actually fought in the wars. I'm not talking about those gold brickers with the epaulettes who do nothing. I'm not talking about the military contractors sitting waiting to cash in. I'm talking about combat veterans. Put them on UAC and start bringing people before UAC. Then you'll see a country that comes together and saves itself. That's right. You heard me.
Savage.
No, that's pretty good. I meant Julius and Ethel Rosenberg, not Goldman. Pardon me. Julius and Ethel Rosenberg, poor victims of the right-wing fascists in America, not. No, they were stone-hearted spies for the Soviet Union. They stole atomic secrets. They gave them to Russia, and they let Russia develop the nuclear a bomb because they stole it from our scientists, and they deserve to die at Sing Sing. Then, of course, China got the nuclear secrets from Russia because they were communists, and that, well, of course, now it's the cat's out of the bag. So here we are, my friends. We have always had subversives in this country. You want to talk about the Revolutionary War? We can go back to Benedict Arnold, an American general who fought for the British and became a spy for the British. You think we don't have them today? You think it's not possible that we have people working for the other side today in the halls of Congress, in the halls of the Pentagon, in the halls of the CIA, in the halls of the, shall I say, White House? People who are sympathetic or outright, let us say, workers for the other side? How else would you explain the fact that the FBI had the Sarnoff brothers under in their radar, investigated them, and let them set off the bombs in Boston? And go down the list. There were 8 such events where they were following them and they let them do it. Now, they say their hands are tied. I'm not so sure. I believe that what I'm reading on the internet about these events, including Orlando, is a conspiracy at the highest level to permit this to happen in order to crack down on the Second Amendment. On that terrifyingly obvious note, I'm going to take a quick break and return right here on the Savage Nation.
Join the Savage Nation. Call now, 855-400-SAVAGE, 855-400-7282. Savage.
The Savage Nation is sponsored by Swiss America, the only company I trust with my financial future. Call 800-289-2646 or SwissAmerica.com. All right, so we got terrorism, and we're talking about it as we should, and what to do about it as we should. Now you wake up and there's a kid eaten by an alligator at Disney. You walk out of there, you take your kid to the Disney Resort in Florida. Isn't it in Orlando as well, by the way? Yeah, in Orlando. It's like a vortex now. You walk out of the Grand Floridian, a top-notch hotel, and bingo, a gator grabs your child. I never heard of such a thing in my life. No evidence of missing toddler after 4 alligators euthanized. Police search for toddler snatched by gator in Disney World. There's nothing you could say about it. Please, no wisecracks necessary. I don't want to hear them. You know, my mind ran, because I'm a jokester. I already had a wisecrack for that one, but I can't say it. It'll be taken the wrong way. I'll wait a couple of months, and I could talk a wisecrack. How can you make a joke about it? I raised 2 children. I kept an eye on them, but, you know, it's like how, why, what is God doing to us, blah, blah, blah. How could you ever live with that? It's bad enough losing a child to a car wreck or a disease. I can't imagine what it would be like in your head after this. You can't live. A parent could never survive this. Little hope for boy taken by gator at Disney Resort. I can't imagine a parent not. Well, let me say, I don't know how you can survive it. No question, toddler snatched by alligator is dead, police say. Oh, God, the lawsuits already. It's like the shooting at the gay nightclub, already lining up to sue the first responders. The evil lawyers already saying the first responders took too long. You hear this, the vermin with the legal degrees. The first responders didn't rush in, they said, right away because they're afraid of a bomb. You hear this? These cowards with law degrees, they're going to now bring a lawsuit against the first responders. You hear this? Instead of against the Muslim front groups. Well, anyway, that's the sick world we live in. We need tort reform, tort reform, tort reform. The greatest terrorists in America are the tort lawyers. They need to be reined in. They're maniacs. Who are they going to sue now? They're going to sue the Disney Resort, of course. Who else can they possibly sue? Maybe they can sue a first responder for not throwing himself in the swamp fast enough. They're sick. They're very sick. Anyway, look, the issue is the kid's dead. And the family, I can't imagine. Authorities are scouring the Seven Seas Lagoon at Disney World's The Grand Floridian Resort and Spa this morning, and hope is faded. And 5 alligators already been caught in the lagoon and euthanized Wednesday afternoon. But no evidence has been found indicating any of those reptiles were responsible for attacking the boy, so they killed innocent reptiles. We'll let that hang in the air, but what are they supposed to do? How did this happen? The toddler was playing at the edge of the shoreline of the lagoon. Alligator comes up and snatches the boy. The family is from Nebraska. The parents were on vacation with their 2 children at the resort when the alligator attacked. There were eyewitnesses who saw the child taken under the water. Can you believe this? Now, wait, listen to this story. The poor boy's father enters the water and tries to grab the child from the reptile. Oh, my God. But he was unsuccessful and sustained cuts and lacerations during the struggle. If it was a lawyer from New York and who saw this happening, he would look to sue. If it was a liberal, he would have called 911. There's no joke here. I'm being as sarcastically cold as I can. The father was a hero. Jumps in the water and tries to get the kid out of the alligator's mouth. Parents quickly alerted a lifeguard. What could he do? But the lifeguard was too far away from the scene to help. What could the lifeguard do? That's a shocker. So more than 50 law enforcement personnel searched the Seven Seas Lagoon, along with an alligator tracker and 2 Marine units. Go ahead, you lawyers. Go ahead, you bums. Go sue now. Line up with the blood running out of your mouths. Line up. Run down there and sue Disney. Oh, it's a terrible story. But, you know, my friends, you put people near alligators, these things are going to happen. The alligator was 4 to 7 feet long. Terrible situation. Nothing more to be said about it. I'll be back.
Join the Savage Nation. Call now, 855-400-SAVAGE, 855-400-7282. Savage.
The wrong music for what I'm about to tell you, but I need to lighten you up a bit. The body of the 2-year-old has been found whole in the gator. Of course, the poor boy is dead. He swallowed the boy whole. Can you imagine this? I can't even... This goes on in India all the time, by the way. Not from gators, but from other big creatures. I mean, lions and tigers. And we're so divorced from wildlife devouring us or harming us that many of us can't even kind of put our brain around this. As maybe we shouldn't. We have enough horror. I'll do the jump cut another time. You know where my mind was going. But nevertheless, we're talking about the gator and the boy now. Oh, my friends, it's just a tragedy. You have to ask yourself, how does this happen? Why does God let it happen? You know, things like this make you search for the answer. There's no answer. It's called an accident, a random chance. The kid was by the lagoon, and the alligator came out and grabbed him, and bingo, there was no God. God was busy somewhere else. He took the day off. He was having a bagel somewhere on Jupiter. So he turned his head for a minute, and the alligator did it. He took a break. He took a coffee break. He turned his head. How do you figure? You can't. You can go crazy if you try to ask, why does God let that happen? Don't get me started, because I'm about to do something on religion that could be either a show maker or a show breaker, but I'll do it. Oh, I better not do it right now. I don't know. I'm not ready for it, but I'm starting to think, like, where is God? I did this once before. Does God exist? You see a little boy, innocent boy, goes to Disneyland, father, and bingo, they're gone. You say, well, yes, God, God's will. Don't give me God's will. Like saying the morons who shoot up a gay club or a supermarket in Israel or blow up a building, they're doing it for God? Their God tells them to go kill gays? So you have to ask yourself, what good is religion? If religion is teaching this kind of hate and this kind of poison, then I'm sorry. I mean, what good is it then? What God told them to do that? So we have to think about these things in great detail. I was watching a show the other day. I remember now what triggered this. The other night I was watching a show on the importance of water to mankind from the beginning of time, going back to Roman with the bears and this and that. And then they bring it up to India. And they show the peasants in India with the Ganges, a filthy, dirty, polluted body of water, if there ever was one. Ganges, they think, is holy water. They go there, they make a pilgrimage, they pour it on their children's head. And this, they make mumbo-jumbo and prayer and humba and a mark and the this. And I was saying to myself, this water is toxic. Poison. Upriver, someone is relieving themselves in the river. Downstream already, it's God's holy water. So for thousands of years, they've been told the Ganges is a sacred water. It's not. It's a river. A dirty, filthy, polluted river. Not only that, but, you know, they cremate in India on wood. And they don't cremate for certain categories of people. They don't cremate you. A holy person doesn't get cremated. An infant doesn't get cremated. A priest doesn't get cremated in India. What do they do with those corpses? They tie barrels to their body, and they float it out into the sacred, clean river of the Ganges. And when the barrels fill up with water, it sinks to the bottom. Very clean water. So I'm saying to myself, what kind of religion teaches people that it goes back thousands of years. Now they're still believing that the Ganges is holy water. It isn't. It's polluted water. And yet you got Indians walking around with underwear on, with little jugs carrying them to temples from the Ganges River like the sacred holy water. Walking with the little thing of holy water. I can't imagine if they ever did a toxicology count of what's in that water, how the people could not be told by the government to stop it already. What are you following a belief that is so absurd that you're liable to die from the belief? And how about doing this with other religions? Like stop teaching that you should kill gays and stop teaching you should stone women to death who, let's say, walk on the wild side out of marriage. Maybe you can revise your religion there, perhaps. Otherwise, why let this religion be taught? We don't need gun control. What we need is religion control in America. That's right. We need the control of such hatred in holy books in the United States of America. And I don't care what holy book it's in. You've heard me. I'm very clear on this. If you look at the Old Testament, the original Jewish Bible, now I know Jews don't do this to women. They don't do it to gays. I get that. But it's in the holy book. I've read Leviticus. Maybe it's time for the Old Testament to be revised. You know, the expurgated version of the Old Testament for the United States of America so people don't get the wrong idea. The same with the Quran, maybe. Oh, no, you can't say that. Because there are some people who are uneducated. They have no brains. They're living in another universe. They're living in another time. And they actually believe that that's the word of God, and they go out and do it. That's what I was thinking the other night. You get it? I'm serious about it. I mean, sorry to have to tell you that a lot of these throwbacks are getting it from their holy book, like all of them. Line 9, Lenny, what's your topic tonight on the Savage Nation? Go ahead, please.
Mr. Savage, you're the topic. I just wanted you to know that you have my vote for the Radio Hall of Fame. You have all the talk show hosts beat. I agree with everything you say, and I'm a Trump supporter. and it's people like you and Donald Trump that's going to make this country what it should be. And
I hear the sincerity in your voice, and I'm not going to be sarcastic in response, but thank you. Beginning Sunday night at midnight, listeners can text their choice by typing the name Savage and then sending it to 36500, 36500. I think it's quite easy. You go to your iPhone. Anyone have the flip phones other than the mafia? I still have a flip phone. People in criminal activity still have flip phones. They buy them and throw them away. Wait, what did I just say? I think terrorists have flip phones. They buy them for $2 and flip them after they set off the bomb. I still have a flip phone. It gets reception in elevators and basements. I have an iPhone, of course, like everyone. My favorite device is an iPad. But thank you very much for that. By the way, I'm sending you a copy of Government Zero. I wish I could say that to everyone who votes for me, but I can't do it. I wish I could send you Teddy and me. I can't do it. Just if you really love me and you want me to win the award and spread the message of Borders, Language, and Culture, that night, Sunday night, you text your choice. You type the name Savage, S-A-V-A-G, and you send it to 36500. Boom. See what happens. And then if I get that award, I'll tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to the induction ceremony Thursday, November 17th, God willing, at the Museum of Broadcast and Communications in downtown Chicago. And I'm going to thank my listeners for espousing the message Borders, Language, and Culture for 22 years. That's going to be the shot heard around the world. It's not going to be about me. See, I'm going to use that opportunity to sell the message of Borders, Language, and Culture. Of course, by November 17th, we'll know if Trump won or not. But we'll see. Lenny, thanks. Stay on the line. Take his name, please. Joey, you have a new call screener today. My call screener is on vacation, and the fill-in call screener was in an auto accident, so we have the great Joey on the... I can't give his last name because he'd be embarrassed. His family is all liberal. I'm joking. Robert's back from his honeymoon, smiling ear to ear. I'm not even going to ask. I'm not going there. Robert got married. Robert got married last week, my board operator, and gone the whole week. It was not easy. Robert's the maestro of the board. He's in Dallas. Donald's speaking there today, right? Mr. Trump is today or tomorrow? Tomorrow. He'll be there tomorrow. So Robert's back, and his lovely wife came into the studio yesterday and said hello. I saw her on Skype. No, it's like family, this show. We yell at each other like family, too, once in a while, but we get over it right away. We do. This is not a polite operation. I walk a tightrope. Sometimes I lose my temper, and I start to say, blah, 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 blah. Okay, they get mad at me. I get it. But we get over it quickly because we know the show must go on, and the show is everything. Let me tell you, this is not an easy profession to be in if you really take it seriously. So, my friends, if you want to join the conversation, the phone number is 855-400-7282. Let's go to a caller named Lance. No, wasn't I going to play the locks thing right now? How long is that, Robert? That's 2 minutes. It's a shorty. Listen to this. Because I came in today to the shop, the Savage shop. I opened up the store. I opened the door. The bells rang on the front door. And I had an email saying, we love your analysis, but we really love when you go off on a stream of consciousness thing. And the thing you did yesterday in hour number 3 on food in San Francisco was so amazing. Oh, here it is. He says, all I have to say is yesterday's show was awesome. I know that we're fed up with these inbred heathen, sand fleas from the 7th century. But your rant on food quality in the delis of San Francisco and your tales of allergies had me almost in the ditch laughing hysterically. Love you, Michael Savage. Keep up the free association. So let's hear it again. It's short enough to replay, maybe to lighten up your day. This is like the old Savage Nation. I'm really doing a free association that I used to be famous for. I guess I've been caffeine deprived in these recent years. I haven't had enough caffeine. So that's simple. Took 1 in the morning wasn't enough. I get up in the morning. The first thing I do, okay, orange juice, then coffee. That's like a ritual. And I started to say, why don't I go out for breakfast like a normal person? People have like leisure and money to go to breakfast because everything is served in a restaurant I don't eat. I'm not going to have eggs and bacon in the morning. I'd rather have coffee and juice at home and go to work and do my show, so I don't go out for breakfast. Then lunch comes. I don't go out to lunch because I'm on the radio from 12 to 3 on the West Coast. So my lunch is shot. So I'm eating out of a carton. My assistant goes out and gets me some like garbage I'm eating from a Japanese restaurant. You give a sliver of fish. Yeah, teriyaki salmon. It's like a sliver of my pinky. No, they wouldn't get away with that in New York. Food, no one knows food. I got to say, don't let me get started on this. I'm a food lover, and I know food. I'm obsessed with it. I cannot get food that I can eat on the West Coast, and I've been here 45 years. Sometimes, once in a while, okay, certain restaurants I go to. I'm giving you an example. Supermarkets. They don't even know how to wrap food here. I send an assistant out $49 a pound for smoked salmon. The idiots roll it up in a tight ball. You can't even separate the slabs of lox. They're connected. And it's dried out. Here it is. Norwegian smoked salmon. What are you, crazy? In New York, they would attack the deli man. There'd be a terrorist attack. If a deli man ever tried to sell out of New York, there'd be like a nightmare would be going on in that deli. No matter what deli I go to, I can name the market. $49 a pound, $39 a pound, garbage. You ever try to get sliced turkey in the San Francisco area? Forget about it. Dogs eat better. It's not sliced turkey. It's like sliced rubber. Every week. Okay, I'll pay a little more. Tell you what, I don't want the oven gold, which is filled with dextrose and injected with water and air to trick you like you're an idiot. Like you can't taste the difference. It's like eating cardboard. I have a cardboard sign in my office that would taste better than the turkey in the supermarkets that I go. So I said, okay, go to that market and pay more for the roasted turkey. He brings me home roasted turkey that's drier than my sandal after walking in a desert. How do they sell stuff like this and not get arrested? Because the people are idiotic in the Bay Area. They're stupid. They don't know food. They don't know politics. They know from nothing. I don't know. You look at Feinstein and Boxer and Pelosi, they're still in office? Yeah, the same thing with the lox and the turkey. They're about on the same level. Dried out and tasteless.
Savage.
It is funny. I tell you, sometimes I don't listen. I don't hear what I say. I do sometimes. How can you hear what you're saying unless you're crazy? If you actually heard everything you said, you'd probably go mad. You'd have to check yourself into a bug house. That's the tough part about being in radio. I have a real quirk what I do. You don't know what I do. I'm on a delay of 30 seconds in radio, 30. I think longer. I'm the longest delay in radio. They're afraid of what I'm going to say. So they have a kill switch all across the country. But what I do is, like, I take a break and I go to a radio I have next to me in all studios and I press the button. And I'll be right back. And I hit the button and I listen to the last 30 to 60 seconds of my show. In like replays, I'm replaying a tape, right? So I can judge how I'm doing, how I sound, if I've sniffed too much, if the food came up on me, something. I got to control it. You know, Donald Trump has a sniff, by the way. That's the funny part. I was amazed. I think he's copying my sniff. He sniffles while he talks. Is someone coaching him that sells? I don't know, but I hear a sniffle once in a while. I'm pleased to see it's cross-ethnic boundaries, but nevertheless, I heard this piece. I was laughing at it just now. It's very funny. It's nice. And I want to entertain you as well, because there's only so much pain a human being can take. So, Robert, let's give the wonderful listeners of the Savage Nation a little tap on the cerebrum. Let's play a little of my favorite jazz music, even if it's the drum solo. And the minute I come back, we'll talk more about the news, views, and reviews that Michael Savage is famous for, right here on your local affiliate. Well, so Orlando now the slaughter by the Muslim terrorist, and now the boy gets drowned by the gator. There's nothing you could say about this, nothing. It'll override the entire Islamic terrorism thing. That's number one. The media, the cowardly media that won't say the obvious, I guess they'll be calling for the banning of gators or something like that. Or I don't know. Look, I'm not trying to be sarcastic. There's nothing you can say a horrible thing like this. Of course, Spielberg, Katzenberg, Matzenberg, and Ratzenberg will do a sequel to Jaws, and that'll be called Gator. That already is guaranteed. Guaranteed. They're already working on it in Hollywood. The treatments are flying over the internet. Gator. Oh, yeah. Do Gator. Oh, that'll sell. That'll get the morons in the theater. Yeah, do Gator. Oh. Katzenberg. The same ones who won't do radical Islam called a movie called Jihad. I mean, that would sell. Jihad. Imagine that on marquees across America, awakening us to actually what's going on. Don't expect that from Katzenberg, Matzenberg, and Ratzenberg, and Spielberg. Expect a movie called Gator. My friends, Romans, and countrymen, give me your attention. Yeah, these are tough times that we're in, but the real heroes are unheard in this country. You don't hear them, you don't see them. They're the tough boys. They're the ones who know how to use a weapon and are willing to face down the 7th century rats. Face them down and shoot them in the head before they get shot in the head. They're the ones who go in and break a door down and do 2 quick shots to the head. You don't see them. You don't hear from them. None of us are heroes in this country. They're the real heroes, the ones who could face them down, the tough boys, the toughest boys in America. And those are the guys that I respect more than anyone else on the planet. So having said that, here we are. We got another, I guess, big hour on the Savage Nation. If you missed any of it, I'm sorry to tell you that you're going to miss the next hour. What can I do? I don't control what goes out on the radio. I control what goes out of my head. And so for those of you who will be with me for another hour, thank you for being in. I got some really, really, really big things waiting for you. And tomorrow and tomorrow and tomorrow, Hall of Fame voting starts Sunday night at midnight. It's real easy. It's real easy. I'll be back.
Join the Savage Nation. Call now, 855-400-SAVAGE. Savage. Warning. The Savage Nation contains adult language, adult content, psychological nudity. Listener discretion is advised. And now, America's most exciting radio talk show, The Savage Nation. Talk radio for the thinking person, home of borders, language, culture. And here he is, Michael Savage.
We made it. Every day is a miracle. Every day that I last on the radio is a miracle. First day to this day has been a miracle. People said, oh, you're not going to last. You can't make it in radio. I heard that from the first day. And all those who predicted my demise are now gone from radio, by the way. But tomorrow is another day. We don't know what it'll bring. We're in a war, not only for our survival physically, but for our intellectual and mental survival. As you know, the slaughter of innocents at the nightclub the other night was not the first. It's not going to be the last. And as so long as we have progressives running the media who refuse to identify the enemy by their proper name, many of us will continue to die. It's that simple. The West is in decline. It didn't go into decline when Obama arrived on the scene. It was already in its death throes. But the liberal media is mixing your brain up so sufficiently that you can't even understand what is necessary for your survival. And I referenced an Islamic speaker who admitted that killing gays is a belief held by moderate Muslims. I saw this morning on InfoWars by Paul Joseph Watson. And I think it's best for those of you who think that I distort reality or distort the truth to make a point, and you want to call me names, I think you better listen to this so-called Islamic speaker, Fahad Qureshi himself. And why don't you listen to what he actually says his holy book tells him and a billion other people. Listen carefully.
Every time we have a conference, every time we invite a speaker, they always can come with the same accusations. This speaker supports death penalty for homosexuals. This speaker supports death penalty for this crime or that. He is homophobic. They subjugate women, etc., etc., etc. It's the same old stuff coming all the time. And we always try to tell them, I always try to tell them that, look, it's not that speaker that we're inviting who has these extreme radical views, as you say. These are general views that every Muslim actually has. Every Muslim believes in these things. Just because they're not telling you about it, or just because they're not out there in the media, doesn't mean they don't believe in them. All of you are saying that you are common Muslims. You all go to the different masajids in Norway. Or are you like a specific sect, like the Islam Net sect or anything like that? Are you like that? Are you like that? Please raise your hand if you're like this extreme Islam Net sect or anything like that. No one. Allahu Akbar. How many of you just go to these normal masajids in Norway, the normal Sunni mosques? Please raise your hands. Allahu Akbar. So what's the politicians going to say now? What's the media going to say now? That we're all extremists? We're all radicals? We need to deport all of us from this country?
Well, my friends, some say yes. If you are inviting people in with a death cult attitude of killing gays and stoning women, and you don't expect gays to die and women to be stoned, then you are crazy, you're mentally ill, and you deserve Barack Obama and Hillary Clinton. Because he's telling you right up front that they all believe it. He just said it. What are you going to do now? Blame me for what he said? This speaker just proves the point that so-called moderate Muslims hold radical, violent, and extreme views about the treatment of women and homosexuals. And why would you bring people into a nation an open society, so to speak. For what reason? So, I can talk about it. Nothing's going to change because until we have a leader willing to change it, nothing's going to change. Right now, we have a leader who's not willing to even accept the fact that what is real is real. Instead, he wants to take away your right to self-defense, as do the stoners in the media. This is the Savage Nation. It's your show. The phone number is 855-407-282. Let's take some calls right now on the Savage Nation. KAOK Radio in New Orleans. Pam, welcome on line 9 to the Savage Nation.
Hi, can you hear me? I
Yes.
appreciate you taking the call. I want you to know that I've been listening to you for a long, long, long time. I'm an old lady in my 70s, but I want you to know that I've been down, so far down, I felt like I was in a snake pit. And because of you, you are gold, I'm telling you. I've been listening to, and without you, through all this, what I've been through, my husband just died. He was a military guy, too. He had a military funeral. He had Alzheimer's for 10 years. My 2 daughters have had cancer. Myself, all of us have double mastectomies, and he died of Alzheimer's. And when I listen to you, that's when I can take another step because of you, Michael. You've raised...
Oh, Pam, listen, of course I want to hear why. Why is it that my voice lifts you up? What?
Because you have that accent like a New Orleans accent, which is New York, and because you have an intelligence that very, very few people have. You are an exception. I can't even explain because I'm not articulate like you are. But you have the words, and you're so articulate and intelligent. But there's nobody on the radio like you. I have 3 radios. I bring them in different rooms. And there's nobody. Why do we only have you? It's amazing that American people are this ignorant. They're good.
Well, here's the way to look at it. The way you look at it is thank God that you have a show that you like. Instead of saying, why don't we have more, say, thank God we have one. That's the way to look at it. I remember once I was teaching somewhere, and the other teachers were idiots. I mean, real liberal morons. The students were stupider than the teachers. I didn't know what to do. So I went to a holy guy, and I said, I don't think I can do this. The people are just dumb. They don't want to hear anything. And he said to me, well, Michael, he said, you know what? Then bring them up. Do what you do. Bring them up. He said, your job then is to make them smarter, not to put them down and say they're not smart. So that helped me through a dark time in my life, Pam. And I think people gravitate to individuals in their life who give them some hope. You've been through a lot of darkness, and I hope I bring you some light. And would you do something for me, honey? There's something you can do for me on Sunday night. Did you hear what I said during the last hour about what you could do for me Sunday night?
We moved because my husband was so sick, so I don't have a computer. But I'm going to find one.
Well, do you have an iPhone?
The only one who's got the little flip phone.
Well, you can still text on a flip phone. Did you know that? I know that if do you know how to text on your little phone?
Something else. God bless you.
No, but Pam, do you know how to text on a flip phone?
No, I don't.
Go to someone in your family. No, it's not funny. It took me a while to learn on my old flip phone, given to me by... The thing is, it works in an elevator. I like the phone, and I like you can text. You go to messages, and then you put one in, and you text the name Savage, and you send it to 36500. Ask someone how to text, and I'll tell you more about it. Meanwhile, I am sending you a copy of Teddy and Me. That's going to put a real smile on your face. When you see the nobility of that little dog, you'll understand where I get some of my comfort from. Not entirely. I get some of it from my little guy. Because, every night, I don't want to go into a whole dog thing, especially a day that an alligator kills a boy. Because right now people are, they don't want to hear about zoophilism. And today they're zoophobic. But I'm using a phraseology, it's not a funny thing. But there's no zoophilics right now after the alligator story. Everyone's a zoophobe. The fact is that we have our pets because they're so noble and they're brave and they're silly and they're so small in such a big vicious world and they don't know it. And they get up and they run around. They think nothing will hurt them. That's like us. God sees us the same way he sees a dog. And many of us are no different than dogs. In fact, we're lower than dogs. Just look at Hollywood. I mean, the fact of the matter is they lead lives lower than dogs do. But okay, let me not go there. I don't really want to go there. My friends, there's a lot to talk about. There's a lot of news. There's a lot of views. There's a lot of reviews. And one of the big topics is the alligator with the boy story. And I touched on why does God let bad things happen? Whether it be a Muslim who goes and shoots up poor people in a nightclub the other night. Why did God let that happen? Why? Why does God let a little boy wander out of a hotel in Disneyland and walk through a little pond and a lagoon, and an alligator eats him and drowns him. Why? Why does he let that happen? There's no reason. Certain things are just random. Certain things can be prevented. For example, God forbid you see a danger, you take your child away from it. God forbid you see a maniac with a gun running around with a holy robe on. You do what you have to do before he hurts you. You certainly don't bring alligators into a lagoon with little children, and you don't bring psychotic throwback 7th century sand fleas into a nation of open people, do you? I'll be back. Be here.
Join the Savage Nation. Call now, 855-400-SAVAGE, 855-400-7282. Savage.
Hey, our Savage Nation is sponsored by SwissAmerica.com, the only company I trust for wealth insurance, gold and silver. Call 800-BUICOIN.
If you buy a car, if you want to get a license, first of all, you got to get a license.
Mm-hmm.
You have to take a test.
Right on.
People have to know that you know how to drive.
Right on.
You don't have to do any of that.
President.
With respect to buying a gun, and when we talked about doing effective background checks,
hallelujah,
it was resisted because the notion was we were going to take your guns away.
Hallelujah, God has spoken. So the president is saying we need background checks for guns because you get one when you drive. I'm in favor of background checks, for people running for the president. See, he was never given a background check. I mean, he hung around with radicals, communists, anti-American terrorists, Bill Ayers. I can name 5 of them. He was raised by anti-American sorts. Well known. He didn't have any background checks. I've told you. I've said it many times on this show that Barack Obama, because of his prior associations, would not have qualified to become an FBI agent. He would have been disqualified from the get-go. Barack Obama, because of his prior associations before he became president, could not have qualified to even guard himself as a Secret Service agent. I wouldn't be making these statements, these wild claims, if they weren't true. So I love he's pointing the finger now saying you need a background check in order to get a gun. Now, on the face of it, you would say, okay, well, it's commonsensical to prohibit anyone on the terror watch list from getting an automatic weapon. Say, I could go for that. But think about it very carefully. Who puts who on a terror watch list? It is the left-wing fanatics like Dianne Feinstein, who is guarded by Secret Service and has a gun, on a concealed carry of her own. It's all these leftist fanatics who want guns and guns around them who would put you on a watch list and deny you the right to bear arms. So that's the problem. Of course we want the Muslims who have been checklisted by the FBI not to be able to get a gun. Sure, I'd vote for that. But you know what the government's going to say? We can't discriminate based on religion. We can't discriminate based on race. We can't discriminate based on country of origin. We can't discriminate at all. So in other words, all of you need to lose your freedoms like we did at the airports. You know that we all shouldn't be going through checks. You know that. There should have been a separate line for certain people. Oh, yeah. That would have made sense. Shorter lines. Or, in fact, if that's illegal, then make a separate airline for them, if you want, those on watch lists. Let them fly on their own plane with their own pilots. So now we're all suffering because of a few rotten apples who were brought into the country and their descendants, their children. So, no, that's not the answer, a background check and the banning a weapon, because that's going to deny us our rights to bear arms, to defend ourselves, especially now in these times. It makes no sense at all. I wish that we had had a background check, people who had vetted Barry Obama before he was foisted upon us by the leftists in the media, pretending he was somebody special, somebody clean, someone who was going to do the right thing, someone who was going to be a fresh start. We all wanted it after Bush. He was such a convincing salesman, that young senator from Illinois. What a lovely family. Didn't they look great? Didn't matter if you were a Republican or Democrat. Many of you were hoodwinked and voted for him. He was such a good salesman. He was going to be transparent and open and honest, and he was going to clean things up. It's the dirtiest administration since Warren Harding in terms of contracts that are steered to the green gangsters. Are you kidding me? Well, you don't hear about it on CNN. Let an investigative reporter one day do a study of how much money has been steered through Obama, Energy Department, whatever, to friends and family of senators and bundlers. Take a look at the billions of dollars that have gone up in smoke. You remember the name Solyndra? That was nothing compared to the billions that have been given out to gangsters and the green rackets. That's all. This is the Savage Nation, just holding forth here. It's one man's opinion. Don't take it seriously. Listen to the important people in the media for your opinions. Tom Brokaw. I mean, someone like that is who you should be listening to for opinion, not me. No, don't listen to me. I'm just an entertainer. They're the real serious thinkers of our time. No. Don't listen to me. 28 books, PhD, 2 master's degrees, collections around the world in various herbaria. But don't listen to me. Nah. No, listen to Tom Brokaw. Or Wolf Blitzer, Mr. Blinky. Or there's always Jake Woodtapper, Mr. Tapper. Oh, very reliable source. Well, there are others. The one who grew the beard on NBC to look smarter. What's that? I forget his name, the one with the beard. They gave him a beard. His ratings weren't up, so they grew a beard on him. You got a beard, Robert. What's his name? Todd. Chuck Todd grew a beard to look smarter. It didn't help him. That's like Anderson Cooper wearing glasses that aren't really necessary to look smarter. I mean, you could put glasses on Anderson Cooper. He still looks like a valueless, empty shell to me. Glasses. I mean, give him glasses that are clear glass. He still look like Anderson Cooper. So, then you're going to turn to them for your answer. Look where they brought us. My friends, we are in it pretty deep. You see the latest story on the Clinton Foundation, your hair would stand up if you actually paid attention. Foreign donations. Cryptic New York filing revealed Clinton Foundation foreign donations. Clinton Foundation officials used an obscure New York State Charity Board filing today to disclose that the nonprofit received nearly $17.7 million in donations from foreign governments while Hillary Clinton was Secretary of State. The Daily Caller News Foundation has learned. Specific foreign governments were not named. The document is entitled Exhibit A. Did you hear this? The money was given between 2010 and 2013. Do you care about that? It's a violation, by the way. Another violation, another crime against skirting the law. And you worried about Trump University? I'm more concerned about Clinton University, the Clinton University of deceit. That's the one you ought to be looking at. That Clinton University is the Harvard of deceit. That Clinton Foundation is the Harvard, the Yale, and the Princeton of deception. I'm Michael Savage. Be here or be nowhere.
Join the Savage Nation. Call now, 855-400-SAVAGE, 855-400-7282.
Now, I want to talk about what happened at the gay nightclub again, because it's a huge story in that it's a tragedy unto itself, of course. If you don't want to call it a tragedy, it's a travesty unto itself, of course. It's a slaughter of innocence, of course. But it is not the first, nor will it be the last, by a Muslim in the West. No, it's in a long line of slaughter, you see. And that's because of the weakness of liberalism. We have a president who was such a fool that he won't even define the enemy by its proper name. I mean, they define themselves by their proper name to their credit. They do call themselves the Islamic State. They don't call themselves the Jewish state or the Buddhist state, the Christian state, the Baptist state. They don't call themselves the Presbyterian state or the Catholic state. They're very clear who they are. They are ISIS, the Islamic State. Everyone knows it except Obama. He doesn't know it. Angela Merkel doesn't know it. The liberal fools don't know it because they don't want to know it, not because their head is in the sand, but their head is somewhere else. But since this is a family radio show, I can't say where that somewhere else is. And it's not somewhere over the rainbow. Here I'm reading an article. I'm going to show you why the journalists destroyed the world. The whole West was destroyed by the liberal press. Here I'm reading an article on the slaughter, and I go to the right column in the Daily Mail. Gwyneth Paltrow flashes her toned abs. Kardashians win an Emmy. Can Caitlyn win an Emmy? They mix your brain up. They've destroyed us. The diseased people in the media have destroyed us. So you don't know the difference between good and bad and right and wrong and up and down. What am I going to say to you? It's hard to do. It's lucky that I'm an older person who grew up at a different time where I have a compass in my head. It doesn't mean I can always follow true north, but I know where true north is. Let's put it to you that way. I was raised on the 10 Commandments. Do I always live up to them? Absolutely not. I was told right from wrong. Am I always right? Am I never wrong? No. But at least I know right from wrong. Now the kids don't know right from wrong, north from south, east from west, stop from go, green from red. That's why we're talking about it on the show. I do the best I can. And so if I sometimes go from the threat against our lives by the immigrants that are being brought in here from the Middle East, yes, I'll say it again, and their brethren and their offspring, and then I switch over to things like food, there's a reason for it. It's because my brain can only take so much pain, you get it? And so we have to move around a little bit in order to maintain the brain. And the brain needs rest. The brain needs some humor. We cannot let the throwbacks take our humor and our joy and our civilization away from us. We cannot take those who live in the 7th century, bring us to the 7th century. We must try our best to bring them to the 8th century, to the 9th century, where, by the way, within their own people, they were already communicating with Jews and Christians on scholarly levels. And I've told you that before. Islam had evolved by the 9th century to something different from the 7th century. What we are doing now is bringing in 7th century throwbacks. Not 17th century, as some of you would wrongly believe, and not 9th century Muslims. We're bringing in Muslims with 7th century beliefs. And that is the problem, my friend. It's not Islam. It's the level of their development. That's something that's never been discussed in the media because they're not educated. They have no desire to study history. And they're knee-jerk liberals who immediately accuse anyone who discusses anything in any depth on this issue of being you-know-what. I'm not going to say it. Islamic speaker admits killing gays is a belief held by moderate Muslims. Paul Joseph Watson, InfoWars. During a conference held in May of 2013, Islamic speaker Fahed Qureshi complained that the media often frames views such as the death penalty for homosexuals or the subjugation of women as only being held by radical Muslims. Qureshi says, I always try to tell them that these are general views that every Muslim actually has. Every Muslim believes in these things, says Qureshi. Qureshi then asks the audience of Muslim attendees, black, white, and Arab, to raise their hands if they agree with gender segregation and stoning women for adultery as taught by the Quran. Virtually every single moderate Muslim in the room raises their hand to agree with these positions. Qureshi then asks the audience if they go to normal Sunni mosques in Norway. Virtually everyone raises their hand. Imagine a mosque in Norway. Can you imagine a mosque in Norway? That's like a dairy farm in Manhattan. But there's mosques in Norway now. Can you imagine what globalization has done to the world? What are the politicians going to say now? What is the media going to say now? That we are all extremists? That we are all radicals? That we need to deport all of us from this country, states Qureshi? Duh. The chillingly ironic thing is, of course, that in trying to argue that most Muslims are not radical extremists, Qureshi only proves the point that so-called moderate Muslims do in fact hold radical, violent, and extreme views about the treatment of women and homosexuals. Well, don't tell that to Jay Johnson, the head of Homeland Security. He thinks it's you, the right-wingers. Don't tell that to Hillary Clinton. She says we need more radical Muslims. I mean moderate Muslims. More Muslims in America in order for, we don't know why. And I guess we need more oppression. I suppose progressives won't be happy until they're repressed by the people they're bringing in. Then they'll finally realize that somebody can control them because we can't. Yeah, a lot of women are frightened right now. I got to tell you, that's the truth. The American women are frightened after that slaughter in the gay nightclub. No one's going to tell it to you. They're scared because they know the government is not on their side. They know the government's not protecting them. They feel stripped naked, and they feel vulnerable. Women are generally more sensitive than men. That's what I found in my life. As hard and tough as women can be, I feel women are more sensitive to what's going on in the currents. They feel frightened because they know that Obama is not there for them. They know that Hillary is not going to protect them. And I believe that they feel that only a tough guy like Trump can save them from the Islamo-fascist hordes amongst us. Never mind Mosul. They don't really care about France. When they see a bum go into a nightclub in Orlando and slaughter innocent guys like they did, they feel vulnerable. That's the thing for you to remember. And this election is going to be all about national security, as it should have been, by the way, from the get-go. And there's no one worse than Hillary Clinton on national security. All I've got to do is say Arab Spring, and that's the end of it. She owns it. And I hope that during the debates, Trump reminds America that it was her plan that destroyed Europe and gave us this flood of Muslim refugees into Europe, and they're about to take Europe over. And speaking of that, you say it can't happen? I would disagree with you. By the way, somebody sent a reference to me of a mystic from Bulgaria, a Bulgarian mystic, a clairvoyant and herbalist by the name of Baba Vanga. I never heard of her. Born in January of 1911, died in August of 96. And the name was Baba Vanga. As I say, a blind Bulgarian mystic. And millions of people around the world were convinced that she possessed paranormal abilities. And there's a book called The Weiser Field Guide to the Paranormal. In it, they claim that she foretold the breakup of the Soviet Union, the Chernobyl disaster, the date of Stalin's death, the sinking of the Russian sub Kursk, the 9/11 attacks, and Topolov's victory in the World Chess Tournament. But there's other horrible stuff. Really, she predicted that the 44th president of the United States will be the last U.S. president. Europe will be transformed into an Islamic caliphate, and the transformation will be complete in the year 2043. And there's more about communism. I don't know. It's just mysticism. What do you want to believe in? I'm merely a commentator. That is a talk show host. I'm not a leader. I've never run for office. I've never said I would run for office. I don't intend to run for office. I am not a politician. Don't confuse me with a politician. I never wanted to be one. It's not a life that I can ever possibly see myself in. It's impossible to believe. And what they've done to Trump has shown me more clearly than ever why I was right my whole life never to go into office, because the vermin in the media are so relentlessly imbalanced and cruel towards anyone who loves their own country. They're so imbalanced and cruel to a man who respects the sovereignty of his own nation that it takes a much stronger man than me to have taken what he took, because I would have exploded a long time ago. He's not yet exploded at them. It's true he banned the Washington Post, which he should have done, because a real left-wing fanatic bought the Washington Post strictly to control the news feeds. In case you don't know it, the Washington Post is not run even by liberals anymore. It's run by a fanatical individual named Jeff Bezos, who owns, I forget what, is he own Amazon? Yeah, he owns Amazon. So these men are megalomaniacs, guys like Bezos, and there's no limit to their desire for power and control, and there's no better way to wash the brains of the masses than to own newspapers. I mean, same goes true on the other side. Mr. Murdoch, God bless him, he's a genius. He owns the Wall Street Journal. Personally, I never would have permitted him to buy the Wall Street Journal. Probably a bad purchase anyway. Probably a loser. But there should be limits on how many different media properties any individual can control, by the way. There used to be such controls. You couldn't own more than a certain number of TV and radio stations in any one market. That all changed. And monopoly is now the rule, not the exception. And incidentally, I never talk about this to any extent, but we need a very serious conversation one day on breaking up the monopolies in the United States of America. There are too many of them. Monopolies like Microsoft, monopolies like Facebook, monopolies like Google. They are the classic reason that antitrust divisions were created within this government. And one day we have to face the fact that monopolies have grown. And many of you have been deluded by the philosophy of free market, free market, free market. And you keep repeating it like parrots. Free market, let the free market prevail. Free market, free market. It doesn't work that way. Sometimes the free market can be hijacked by tremendous amounts of money. And at that point, the government has to step in and break up the monopoly. It's that simple. That's how I see it. I don't even have to say anymore. I did the whole thing. That's all. So, folks, I got something nice to tell you. Here's the nice thing. I want you to do me a favor. I want you to get out a pen. Yes, you remember those things that you held in your hand between your index finger, your thumb, and the third finger? Remember those things called pens? Before Mark Zuckerberg came along, there was a thing called a pen. That's right. And you held it in those three fingers, and you grasped it, and you made a note. And the note is that Sunday night at 12:01 a.m., if you're still up, if you have insomnia or you're following your natural sleep cycle, which is not to sleep in such a long block of 9 hours, but break it up into 2 blocks, as most humans have done through the millennia. Let's say you're up at 12:01. Here's what I want you to do. You type the name Savage into your text device, and then you send it to 36500. I'll tell you more about it on Friday. And if you do that, you will help elect Michael Savage to the National Radio Hall of Fame because I deserve it. If I didn't deserve it, I wouldn't tell you about it. I'm only running against 3 other people. And since I've been a pioneer in the spoken word, since I'm far more creative, inventive, entertaining, informative, educated than everyone else in the history of radio, I deserve the award. And I want to be in the National Radio Hall of Fame. I think it would be a real honor for me. And then the only way I could win is if enough listeners text all their friends and people on their social lists to say, type the name Savage and send it to 36500. But this can't happen until Sunday night, 12:01 a.m. or Monday morning, the first thing you wake up. That's just a piece of business. That's all. I'll be right back.
Join the Savage Nation. Call now, 855-400-SAVAGE, 855-400-7282. Savage.
The Savage Nation is sponsored by Swiss America, the only company I trust with my financial future. Call 800-289-2646 or SwissAmerica.com. It is Wednesday, obviously, and America is still absorbing the slaughter of gay people on the weekend at the club in Orlando. They're still absorbing it. They're trying to sort out what happened. Why would this evil person do this? And they say different things about why he did it. But the truth is that it's taught in his fundamentalist belief system that homosexuals deserve the death penalty, that women should be subjugated. That's why you see the women walking around with costumes from the 7th and 8th century, because they subjugate their women. And that leads me to something that's most important, and I want to say it before the show is over. It is not about Islam per se. It is about the century in which the religion lives. Meaning, we love Muslims, such as the King of Jordan. We love Muslims who have evolved with their views of gays and women, for example, and infidels and Jews and Christians. No problem with that. So it's the individuals who are living in the 7th century view of Islam, where they did stone women to death, who committed adultery, and they did kill gays. They're still killing gays in Iran. They're killing gays in Saudi Arabia right now. So they're living in another century. We can't have that in this country. So when the president tries to say that if you oppose Muslims, you're a bigot, he's giving you, again, a half-truth. Although I hate Obama's politics, let us say he's putatively a silent Muslim, which I think he has to be. His father was a Muslim. His adopted father was a Muslim by patrilineal descent. He is a Muslim by definition. I don't care whether he's a Muslim. He doesn't hold these beliefs from the 7th century. So in other words, I don't like his liberalism, but his view of Islam doesn't bother me because he is not living in the 7th century. And I think that's the most important and most salient point of the day, and one that should be picked up by everyone discussing this issue. Listen to the lie in clip number 10 of him trying to say that if you oppose 7th century Muslims, you oppose all Muslims, and you're a bigot. Listen to clip 10.
We've seen our government mistreat our fellow citizens, and it has been a shameful part of our history. This is a country founded on basic freedoms, including freedom of religion. We don't have religious tests here.
Oh, shut up. Just shut up with your booming voice. Go shove it. Your booming, lying voice. It's a great country. That's how a lowlife like you could become a president. Only you could become a president of a great country like this because we're so tolerant. You big liar, you. Of course it's founded on basic freedoms, or even a phony like you could become president. And of course we believe in freedom of religion, President Obama. But we don't believe in the freedom to kill homosexuals and the freedom to stone women to death. Why don't you distinguish between those you are bringing in with 7th century Islamic beliefs and modern Muslims who believe in pluralism, who believe in the rule of law, who believe in civil liberties, the very things that make this country great? Stop painting all with a broad brush, and then you'll be a better painter. You might actually become a decent politician. The Hall of Fame voting starts this Sunday night at midnight, June 20th. It's real simple. Savage 36500. Borders, language, culture. Be here or be nowhere. I'm Michael Savage. Thanks for listening.